Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Herrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off with Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Glens Falls, New York.
All right. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 12 for Monday, February 15th, 2021. Happy President's Day to all our listeners in the United States. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring pointers on biodynamic agriculture, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And as always, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in with us. So thank you.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview the last of the Canadian division in the upcoming AHL season for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games, and we're going to talk about what we see when we watch film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms, go check that out. You'll be better able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise this isn't that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes looking at memes already today. But that's enough intro fluff. Let's finish these season previews.
Yes, the final 3 teams of the 28 that we've previewed thus far for the 2021 season. A little bit of the delay for the Canadian division, but hey, we're getting some Smashing Pumpkins vibes because this episode is called The End of the Beginning. And if you're familiar with the Pumpkins catalog at all, they have a song called The End is the Beginning is the End. So definitely feeling that right now, the end of the beginning. Let's talk the 3 teams that we're going to be covering today. It's going to be the Toronto Marlies, the Manitoba Moose, and the Stockton Heat, who have been moved up to Calgary, Alberta, Canada for the 2021 season. And like I said, we're going to get started with the Marlies. Let's take a look at their stats capsule. Head coach Greg Moore is going to be starting his first full season with the Marlies after taking over as head coach in December 2019. They had kind of a weird year. I mean, it was just, you start off with Sheldon Keefe, and then you kind of have the associate coaches, both of them as interim head coaches until Greg Moore got caught up and was up to speed with how the system works and everything. So long story short, because of all that, they didn't do too well. 29, 27, 3-2. They were 7th in the North Division out of 8 teams last year. Not too good at all. Not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. Affiliation for 2021, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And no Newfoundland Growlers because no ECHL North Division this season. So just the Maple Leafs as the NHL affiliate for the Marlies this year. Games scheduled, we'll find out. There's already 8 on the docket for the month of February. They've got Manitoba, 4 away games in the middle of February, and then Laval. They've got 4 away games at Laval in late February because, well, they weren't quite sure in the province of Ontario when they could start playing, and they just got approval a few days ago. And so here we are, Toronto Marlies, and that is their stats capsule. And those are the games, the 8 games that they are currently scheduled out in this staggered release format that they're doing for the Canadian division. Let's talk forwards. So Kenny Agostino is a tracksuit connoisseur, playing for 5 different NHL and AHL teams since going pro in 2013. That'll count for 6 if you split Adirondack/Stockton. Looking at you, Glens Falls, New York over there, Shawnee. He did stick around with the Marlies for a second season, the first time he's done that since that stint in Adirondack and Stockton from 14-16, still there in the Calgary organization and their AHL affiliate. If Agostino is not producing top-line point totals in the AHL, he's spending time with the parent club up in the National. Agostino is a good playmaker with gifted vision that realizes the best pass isn't always in front of him. He problem solves and processes the game well, in addition to being a good forechecker. Unfortunately, he lacks high-end speed. Now, I keep thinking he'll take the call-up and lock up a bottom 6 NHL role, but for some reason, he continues to stick around in the AHL, where he's a lock first liner. Joey Anderson has a high hockey IQ and works his tail off, which is important. He is good. He's a good but not a great player in terms of raw talent. His abilities are more subtle. He's likely to put up another strong season at the AHL level, and we'll probably see top 6 minutes and at least maybe a power play 2. He'll be given some power play, the second line power play time in Toronto. Rourke Chartier, he's a good skater and a hard worker for sure. Plays a solid 200-foot game and has enough offensive ability to contribute on both ends of special teams at the AHL level. I could see him as a second line center, PK unit, and maybe second power play unit guy for the Marlies, but I could see him struggle as he missed the better part of 2 seasons of hockey due to concussion issues. He's talented for sure, but going that long without game action is going to affect his timing and some mechanics at least a little bit. Rink rust is a thing, my friends. Pierre Ingvall has an assist in 5 games played up with the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. He's also played 48 games with the Maple Leafs in 1920 in primarily a bottom 6 role, while also picking up some time on the penalty kill. He'll no doubt be deployed on the penalty kill at the AHL level as well, for sure. The 24-year-old can skate well for his 6'5" frame, using it to his advantage to create space for himself and line mates and to help out on the forecheck. He can also defend his position adequately, but with no elite puck skills, his NHL ceiling tops out as more of a role player. Ingvall doesn't possess an NHL shot either, which prevents him from being classified as a bona fide sniper. His third-line forward grade from the model in 1819 is inaccurate. He's made strides, for sure, to improve his game to a top 6 grade for 2021. Scott Pooley has bounced back and forth between the Newfoundland Growlers of the ECHL and the Marlies the past 2 seasons. The fact that the fourth line of Pooley, Rich Clune, and Hudson Ellenuk was the most impressive line on the Marlies halfway through last season is, well, that's something. A first-line forward with Newfoundland in 1819, 60 games played up with the Growlers, and a solidly graded third-line forward in the model for the Marlies in 1920 through 30 games played. Pooley has scratched and clawed to make his way in the pro game. He was and can be deployed on power play and penalty kill opportunities. He's speedy, and he's big enough at 6'2" to hold his own and be a physical presence on the ice. Given a shot on the third, even the second line, I think he could blossom a little, and, you know, he could really contribute when surrounded by more offensively minded teammates. Justin Brazzo is something that is a rarity in the Toronto system, and that's a true power forward. He's enormous at 6'5", 220 pounds, and he has an intriguing offensive toolbox with a good shot and puck skills. But getting that big frame moving is a struggle for him. It's like playing with Donkey Kong in the original Super Mario Kart. It takes a little bit to get going. But, you know, while I don't think he'll ever be seen as a burner, if he can take some steps forward with his skating, he could be a dangerous weapon for the Marlies. Cali Costilla has an injury history that's concerning, but he's a creative playmaker with good skating. His shot doesn't have elite velocity, but his release is quick enough to beat goalies from the home plate area. For a smaller size skater, he finds ways to attack the middle, and he has good hockey IQ. He's not a defensive stalwart, but as a dependable middle 6 scorer, I like him a lot. Adam Brooks comes back to the Marlies as a guy with very good speed and a well-rounded skill set. He's been good in all situations for the Marlies in the past and makes a lot of small, subtle plays to contribute rather than the big, splashy dekes. While only being 5'10" and 181 pounds, he can win battles in corners and has a fantastic work ethic. I don't know if he'll sneak into a power play unit, but he's definitely a penalty killer and should be a good middle 6 center for the Marlies this season. Tyler Gaudette makes a return after a good season with the Marlies in 1920. He's got playmaking vision and has a solid two-way center and is a solid two-way center at the AHL level. His offensive skill set is okay. He doesn't wow me with much else. Still a guy who can chip in 20-something points from bottom 6 minutes and play solidly in his own end. That's a nice safety net to have. And if you're a Marlies fan, I know you've been waiting for us to talk about this last forward that I want to mention, Nick Robertson. He's the main event here, which is why we saved him for last, saving the best for last. Well, Robertson's skating concerns me. I'll just say that. His edge work is great, but he doesn't have that speed to really threaten defenders with pace. He's also someone who needs to be glued to the strength and conditioning coach and live at GNC, as he is 5'9" and 161 pounds. He's a light dude, a small guy. Otherwise, yeah, the kid can absolutely ball out, to borrow that term from sports that have balls. He has very good puck skills, an amazing hockey IQ, and a shot that will make opposing goalies wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. So yeah, Nick Robertson, there's the honest take about him, and there's the honest take about the Marlies forwards. Let's talk defense. Let's talk blue line. Shawnee, kicking it over to you.
Geez, I feel like I could have gone and made dinner in the time that you talked about the forwards. There's a lot of them, a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things to say. But let's talk defense right now. David Warsofsky was acquired by the Maple Leafs in a 6-man trade that I don't want to talk about back in October. Warsofsky is certainly an offensive-minded defenseman who has a good hockey IQ. He'll jump in and join the rush, as well as make moves off the cycle beyond just point shots and rim arounds. This aggressiveness on offense, however, can come back to bite him, as while he has good edge work, he's not a burner and doesn't always make it back to his defensive responsibility in time. Still, his offensive output more than makes up for the occasional bad outcome that goes the other way. He was the Baby Pens captain last season, so some veteran leadership is kind of implied here. Timothy Lilligren has been a frustrating prospect for Leafs Nation. In some ways, he's taken steps forward. His defensive game has improved drastically. He's made some strides in the offensive side of the puck, and he's become more active from the blue line. In other ways, he's just stuck in second gear. His skating stride still looks awful, and his shot really hasn't improved since draft day. Still, he makes a great first pass in transition and finds stretch passes with the best of them. I just don't know if he ever makes it to be an everyday NHLer. For the Marlies, though, he's someone I expect to still be a top pair defenseman for them. I love Joseph Duzak's hockey IQ and puck skills. That's it. Not really high on the rest of his game. I don't like his skating as a defender, and he scares me legitimately during the rush. Until that gets better, he's maybe a second power play guy, but should play third pair minutes and probably see a lot of offensive zone faceoff starts when he can, matching him up against some lesser competition until some of that skating can become less of a glaring weakness. Riley Mccord is going to be a defenseman who will likely frustrate and excite fans and coaches alike this season, possibly in the same game, maybe even the same shift. He's not a great skater, but has a keen understanding of when to jump in and join the rush as a fourth forward. He has playmaking visions that are just sheerly brilliant that happen kind of often. However, his defensive game certainly has its facepalm moments. And if nothing else, he's going to raise the entertainment factor of the game when he's on the ice, because he can make brilliant plays and get his team in a position to score that others can't. And then he will make terrible plays and put the other team in a position to score where others would not have. Mac Hollowell has great skating and good hockey sense. His transition game is quite good, but he seems very hesitant to make moves last season that I thought were suspect. Well, he's got confidence in his game when he's got confidence in his game like he did in juniors, he can absolutely ball with the Marlies. I'd like to see him find that game again, though, because I haven't really seen it at the AHL level. In a fun twist of events, it looks like Calle Rosen will share a locker room with a guy who was traded for him, Michael Hutchinson, almost exactly a year ago. Initially part of the Nazem Kadri-Tyson Barrie deal, Calle Rosen came back to Toronto for Hutch. In the words of the immortal Bob McKenzie, the trade was 1-for-1. Rosen's got great speed and defends the rush well and has a pretty good shot. He's creative in generating offense, but doesn't always pick the best spots for taking risks with the puck. Still, I have a hard time thinking he won't be a top defenseman for the Marlies this season. Rasmus Sandin didn't just look okay as a teenager in major minutes in the AHL last season. He was outright awesome. I'd still like to see improvements in his skating, and his puck skills are good, but not great. But let's not forget, he's a top pairing defenseman for the Marlies due to his hockey IQ. Sandin isn't flashy, but he's smart and effective. He gets transition going under pressure, is able to find passing lanes off the cycle, and he sees moves ahead in his own zone. He's also got a good work ethic on him, and while he's not physically intimidating, he isn't afraid to throw his body around when necessary. I keep thinking he's going to stick with the Leafs, but in this wacky year, I could see him spending more time with the Marlies for one last time. Well, that's all the skaters that we think are going to make an impact. There are more than a couple goalies on this roster. Please tell me about the goalies, CC.
All right, let's talk goaltending. Now, Ian Scott, he had a hip injury derail last season, and when he had 2 functioning hips, he had a toolbox that I definitely liked. He's got good athleticism and reads the play well. He isn't a blue chip goalie prospect, but I think he's got a good shot at being someone. Joseph Woll has a lot of good raw tools, but he's kind of unpolished. I love his athleticism, but he relies on it too much and will be over aggressive and get out of position. He moves well, but his movement is busy sometimes. He's talented and could be a solid guy in Toronto, but like I said, he needs some refining. And last but not least, I cannot believe that Michael Hutchinson is back in Toronto. I mean, obviously, I got to see him first and foremost here in Avalanche territory when he was, starting those games in the playoffs with both of the starting goaltenders injured and everything. But yeah, he's back with the Marlies, and he's on emergency loan with the Leafs right now. But I think we all know the Marlies are going to rotate all 3 guys between taxi squads, emergency call-ups, and so on and so forth. Now, after last season's 15-game debacle for the Leafs and subsequent trade, like we mentioned earlier, I've thought that the Leafs brought David Ayres into the system before Hutchinson. You would think, but Hutch has been a reliably good goalie in all fairness at the AHL level, and even a roughly league average one at the NHL level. Hutch reads the play well enough. His mechanics are above average, and he's athletic, but not at a remarkably high level. His problem has been consistency, and as we detailed at length in episode 0, consistency in goaltending is just something that doesn't happen very often. Hence why, as we say, goaltending is voodoo. I think the ideal plan is to have Woll and Scott split starts with Hutch on the taxi squad, but somehow I think all 3 get time in the Marlies. Overall, while I don't think this group has the best goalie in the AHL among its inhabitants, it's maybe the deepest, as all 3 could reasonably be competent starting AHL goalies, and I don't think any other team really can say that. So at least the Marlies got that going for them, which is nice. Oh, Sean, so those are all the players for the Marlies that we've run down. Let's talk outcome. And, like our last episode, it's not just a best, worst, and most likely scenario. Canadian division is going to be a different animal this year. So let's talk divisional finish and where we think the Marlies are going to end up in the 5-team Canadian division.
For me, it's hard to figure out how Toronto's going to play the balance of their taxi squad and their Marlies roster. So far, indications seem to be that they're going to have a lot of guys who I could see them sticking with the Marlies for most of the season, and others who I could see them calling up and rotating in the taxi squad and getting some games in the show. How many Marlies games guys like Anderson, Engvall, Robertson, Sandin, Lilligren, etc., how many Marlies games they play is going to determine if they can compete with Laval for a spot at the top, or if they're going to be jockeying for a position with Belleville and or Stockton. For me, I think it's the latter due to a lot of shuffling and not finding a cohesive line chemistry or a cohesive team chemistry even. I think they're going to be fine, but I could see this group underachieving just a bit based on what looks like at this point a pretty steady shuffle of guys going, back and forth from the Leafs to the Marlies. Cece, any thoughts from you?
Well, I tell you, if Laval continues on their pace, I mean, they made Belleville look silly this past weekend, and they dominated them. And it's something that we covered in our last episode, is that Laval doesn't have a lot of CHL prospects currently on their roster. And I kind of noticed that from sort of from Toronto as well. I mean, they've got some guys on there, but it's not nearly to the level. So it's like you said, you've got like Belleville, Stockton, and Toronto. They're all kind of in the middle of the pack there. And Laval tends to be, it's only a 2-game sample. And, we've got a lot more games to play, of course, in this season, not as much as a normal season, but Toronto in the middle of the pack, it's just, it's kind of unprecedented. It's going to be, especially in the Canadian division, being the different animal that it's in, that I alluded to and just flat out said earlier. It's just going to be kind of a cluster up in the Canadian division.
And I think too, you're going to see like Laval, from our whole 2-game sample, looks like they have kind of come out clicking better than some of the other teams.
Sure.
I mean, not just better than Belleville, but better than some of the other teams we've seen throughout the AHL. And that's like, normally that's whatever, it's a 76 game season. You stumble out of the gate a little bit in October. That's okay. But no, that's not how this one's going to work. You only have like 35, 40 games tops. Like, you don't get to stumble for a third of that and finish strong. Like, this is going to be a season where whoever comes out of the gate the hottest and the most cohesive, I think, is going to build a lead that's going to be uncatchable.
Mm-hmm.
I think Toronto, like I said, it's all going to come down to who gets games, how long they stay, what the plan is from, Kyle Dubas. But I think there's going to be shuffling. So when we come back in our postmortem and they end up keeping the same, 24 guys the whole season, we can make me look silly. But for right now, it at least looks like they're going to have some trouble getting that kind of team cohesion.
Sean going LMFAO every day. The Marlies are shuffling. So, well, maybe not every day, but we'll see. Sorry, couldn't help myself. All right. Well, hey, that's one team down. We've got 2 teams to go in this episode. We're going to take a quick break for some advertisements. Hang with us and we'll talk about Manitoba on the other side of the ads. All right. And we are back. We talked about the Toronto Marlies and their season ahead. Let's talk about the Manitoba Moose. Let's dive into their stats pack here in a little capsule. Head coach Pascal Vincent entering his 5th season, which is kind of as we've kind of finished up here, they're normally around 3 seasons in this coaching, in the AHL coaching fraternity, as it were. But Vincent in his 5th season with the club, starting up his year number 5. 1920 regular season record, 27-33, 1-0, 8th in the Central Division.
Great.
Ouch. No, sir. Affiliation for 2021 is with the Winnipeg Jets. Normally, they're also affiliated with the Jacksonville Icemen of the ECHL, but it's kind of hard to send prospects back and forth the Canadian-U.S. border in the middle of a global pandemic. So there's that. But yes, Manitoba, Winnipeg, as you know, games scheduled, of course, to be announced, to be determined, but we've got February figured out. They're going to play the Marlies 4 times at home towards the middle of the month. Laval, they're actually going to head to the province of Quebec to take on Laval in later February, 4 games. So they've got 8 games scheduled for the month of February, as starting on February 15th. So there you go. Manitoba Moose, that's a stats pack. Let's talk the forwards core. And David Gustafsson, we'll start with him. He's currently with the Jets taxi squad, but he's only gotten a few games. And I think he makes a significant impact on the Moose once he returns. His game isn't making 3 defenders look foolish with dekes, then going bar down. His game's a lot more subtle. He's strong and skates hard. And while making small, smart puck moves, again, it's the subtlety. He's a vicious board battler and has a nose for the net. I do think he's valuable penalty kill aspect and would be a good counterbalance center on a line with wingers who are more offense only. Gustafsson's line mates are for a good portion the last season. Well, one of them is Christian Reichel, and he'll be returning to the Moose to start 2021. Reichel's defensive game is more noteworthy than his offensive game. He's an okay skater, rather, who has above average puck skills, but I wouldn't quite call them good. He's not a bad shooter, but there's absolutely no way he shoots 19.7% this season.
No way.
No. Obviously, you're going to fall off from that. Marco Dano is currently week to week with an upper body injury as he returns for his 3rd stint in the Winnipeg, Manitoba organization. Dano's only 26, but it feels like he's been around forever. He's not a flashy player. Instead, he generates offense more off the cycle and by slamming home rebounds in front. Despite having an average-sized frame, Dano wins battles in tough areas and uses his hockey IQ to find soft spots in the slot. He's not a play driver and won't consistently beat goalies from distance with his shot, but he's a good middle 6 forward who can chip in offensively. Tyler Grayovack missed most of last season due to injury, but has all the feel of a late bloomer. He's enormous, but he's got surprisingly good puck skills and flashes of high-end talent as well. He doesn't have top end speed, but his edge work is shocking at times. And when he's gotten consistent ice time, he's shown he's capable of putting on a show in the AHL. If he's able to shake off the rust quickly, he's got a shot to be a star for the Moose. CJ Cease rebounded well after an injury took away most of his rookie season. I don't think he develops much past what he's shown, which is a good 200-foot game paired with average puck skills and a solid work ethic. He's a good but not great skater. I think of him as a fine middle six option that occasionally flirts with top six production, but never quite sticks the landing, as it were. He's got a lot of value as a depth scorer and a penalty killer, though, so there's that. Skylar McKenzie certainly has the puck skills and hockey IQ that he was thought to have, rather, when he put up massive numbers in his overage seasons in the WHL. He's a talented forechecker as well. He's struggling to adjust to the pace and physicality of the pro levels, however, but seemed to find his groove last season. I think sooner rather than later, he emerges as a top-line player in the AHL. I don't know if that's this season, but it could be. In 1920, the Moose had a 16.6% power play success rate. All right, we're saving the best for last on this one as well. So let me tell you, if Cole Perfetti can't improve that dramatically, I don't know if there's hope. Perfetti has elite vision and hockey IQ. He's creative and moves ahead. What really impresses me is his ability to problem solve under pressure. He'll have a defender right on top of him, and he can use his edge work and puck skills to create space and find a wide open teammate. His skating isn't that bad. I like his edge work a lot, actually, but he lacks elite speed or even really good speed. It's obviously not a deal breaker, but with his frame, speed is usually an important counterbalance. I think his puck skills more than compensate for that, though. Perfetti isn't just a blue chip prospect and a future NHLer. He's a future very good NHLer. Enjoy him with the Moose while he lasts, because I don't think it will be for very long. So those are your forwards. Let's talk defense once again. Sean, take it away, bud.
Dylan Sandberg's on the Jets taxi squad, but he's waiver exempt. He's not getting games in the show. So I have to imagine that Winnipeg sends him back to the Moose at some point this season, if not, soon. He's not a guy who's going to make Sports Center. He doesn't have a sexy skill set, but I think he's going to be good. He's physical, but doesn't rack up PIMs. He can skate well, has good hockey IQ, and defends his own end very well. I don't think of him as a playmaker or power play quarterback. He doesn't have a big shot, doesn't seem to know how to manipulate penalty killers with his puck skills or deception. Still, I like him a lot. I think he's an easy number one defenseman for the Moose. Speaking of waiver-exempt young prospects who aren't getting games in the show from the taxi squad, Ville Heinola isn't the skater that Sandberg is and isn't as physical, but I think his hockey IQ sets him apart from the pack. He's a good puck mover, and he handles the pressure from forecheckers well. His defensive game is pretty good, but not great. And I think he's someone who should get power play time, but I could see also how he's maybe not the best fit. Leon Gavanki has a lot of raw tools. He's athletic, strong, skates well, and has good puck skills. Defensively, he's not the best at puck management and will take unnecessary risks, but I think that's obviously fixable. His vision isn't the best, but again, I think he'll grow into reading the pro play better with experience. I think he should see somewhat sheltered second pair minutes here with some power play time. Declan Chisholm skates well for his size. He has good puck skills, and he defends his blue line admirably during transition. He's not very physical, but I don't think that's terrible. More surprising for someone with a good frame. If Sandberg and Heinola stay in Winnipeg for a longer term, I also think he's a shoo-in for top 4 minutes. Otherwise, it gets kind of crowded fast for him. Ashton Sotner, like Grayovack, isn't actually part of the Jets organization. He's a Canucks signee. He's here because the Canucks, smartly, worked out a deal with the Jets to stash some players on the Canadian side of the border in case they needed to make emergency call-ups. And here, this whole time I thought this border was an impossible obstacle for Canadian teams with American AHL affiliations. Huh. Well, on the ice, Sotner is a defensive defenseman who's good at defending his blue line in transition as well. His zone defense isn't great, and his body position on defense leaves a lot to be desired, but he's good enough defensively. On offense, well, he has some good instincts, but seems to prefer to just stay on the blue line and let the forwards do the heavy lifting. In Utica last season, he was paired with Brogan Rafferty most of the year and let an offensive-minded Brogan Rafferty just kind of do his own thing. I think he's a good pair with an offensive-minded partner, but for the most part, he's not going to contribute a whole lot on offense. Luke Green is very much still a project. He has a good set of puck skills, but doesn't have the high-end speed or strength to really separate himself physically. He sees the game well, but he seems to need more time to be able to process at the pro speeds. It's probably because he hasn't been able to stay healthy long enough to really get comfortable. And given the amount of off time he's had in the past couple seasons, I imagine there's going to be a lot of rink rust for him to shake off. However, the organization really hasn't gotten to see what he's actually capable of or how he's grown because he just can't stay on the ice. But staying healthy is not a skill. It's a fluke thing that happens. So let's hope that this is, the first year of full health in a number of many years of full health to come. Jonathan Kovacic projects as more of a defensive defenseman who has limited but still present offensive upside. He has average puck skills and occasionally makes a creative pass, but otherwise he's very risk averse and doesn't move the puck all that well. His skating isn't bad, but he doesn't have good speed. He seems destined for a middle pair role alongside a more offensive-minded partner and big penalty kill minutes, as he's reliable there and will rarely take additional penalties. Overall, this group seems to have a lot of the defensive aspect down to it, but nobody really stands out to me as someone who's a real runaway prospect for the power play quarterback, except for maybe Ville Heinola and Gavanki. But the rest of it seems like you're pairing a lot of defensive-minded guys with defensive-minded guys just based sheerly on numbers. And I don't know that that's a system that's going to work out too terribly well for Manitoba. Cece, that's our skaters. Tell me about the voodoo.
I get voodoo 2 times in a row. I'm kind of like, licking my chops here. All right. Mikhail Burden. He has some polishing needed unless he's playing against the Colorado Eagles. I can attest to that. He has some polishing needed to get some of the more technical structure in his game. He's still very aggressive and his puck tracking is just above average, but his athleticism is elite. And that makes him someone I think the Moose should ride if this season is truly about development. Artur Silovs is actually a Canucks prospect that they stashed on this side of the border, so they didn't have to uproot an entire AHL club from America on a moment's notice. What a concept. Does that sound familiar? Calgary. Silovs, anyway, I digress. Silovs is a raw athletic goalie who's very much a project and will probably face some struggle as AHL shooters skate faster and shoot better than anything he's ever faced before. Still, raw athleticism of his caliber can compensate for a lot, and it's a great base to build on. I wouldn't expect good results from him this season, though, so yeah, it's just kind of a chalk it up to development sort of thing. Local boy Cole Kaler is on the roster and has 8 whole minutes of AHL experience. He's got a good frame, but I don't think he adjusts well to the speed of the AHL. He has 48 games of ECHL experience that went not terrible, but I can't imagine the Moose want him to be getting the majority of the starts for the club this season. So there you have it. I mean, Mikhail Burden, I don't want to call him the veteran of that group there, but he's definitely the more seasoned one of those 3 for sure. Let's talk outcome. What's the divisional finish? Where do you see the Manitoba Moose finishing in the Canadian division this year, Sean?
I mean, it's hard for me to find realistic avenues for positive outcomes here. The defensive group has depth, but I don't think that they move the puck well enough. And Cole Perfetti will put on a show. I mean, that one we can, that is a take that will age well.
That's a given.
Grayovack, I think, could be a bright spot on offense. And they have some others that, could work out well, some lottery tickets almost. But the bottom 6 forward group looks rough. And Burden is still rough around the edges with nothing really substantial behind him. I think they'll have some highlights and some fun on the way, but I think this is clearly the worst team in the Canadian division this season. Cece, do you have anything to supplement that with? Or do you have a sneer disposition maybe?
Not quite. No, I mean, like you and I talked about in regards to our Marlies season preview there. I mean, you've got Laval, and then in the middle, you've just got Toronto, Stockton, Belleville, and then Manitoba. I mean, there's Laval, a line. Oh, as I bumped the the screen there. Laval, a line, those three I mentioned, a line, and then the Moose. I think there's definitely some delineation between the top team and the bottom team. And yeah, I'm in agreement with you. It's just Manitoba is, unfortunately, as previous season records indicate, they're not going to do well this season as they did last season, because there's a lot of guys that I recognize from their roster last season. And yeah, it's just going to be, like you said, the Cole Perfetti show.
Yeah, it's going to be, can Cole Perfetti carry this team to success? And as much as I like Cole Perfetti, yeah.
I don't think so, Tim. So there you go. All right. Well, that's 2 down, 1 to go. We're going to be talking about the Stockton Heat, who are up in Canada for the 2021 season after the break. So let's get some ads here. We'll take a quick break and we will be right back. All right, and we have returned with our final team, not only of this episode, but of the AHL season previews. Sean, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and don't worry, that's not a freight train coming our way. It is the sun. So let's talk about the Stockton Heat up there in good old Calgary. So Stockton, their head coach is Cale McLean, Mr. McLean, Cale McLean. He's in his 3rd season with the club. Their 1920 record in the Pacific Division last year was 30-17, 4-4. That tells you how competitive the Pacific was last year, because they were only in 4th place when play stopped in March 2020. So yeah, pretty tough, rough and tumble division last year. Affiliation for 2021 is Calgary, of course, and the Kansas City Mavericks of the ECHL. Considering now Stockton's on the other side of the border, I would not expect a whole lot of ECHL, AHL fringe guys to, get called up, because obviously you got that 14-day quarantine right now. So, but those are the affiliations. Games scheduled, of course, to be determined for, the far out future. But for the foreseeable future, you've got Toronto, 4 home games for Stockton in Calgary. Can we just do like a Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim thing and do the Stockton Heat of Calgary? I think that would be, I think that would be appropriate. But anyway, Stockton Heat of Calgary, 4 home games. They're going to be hosting Toronto in late February. So, they're going to be getting their season started a little bit. I think they're the last one. I think February 23rd is when they start their season. So a little bit more time to get acclimated, get the staff up there and everything. And Sean, I know you've got opinions about that.
We'll talk about those in a minute. Let's get through all the players first. Let's talk forwards. You've had enough fun talking about forwards, so it's my turn.
It is your turn.
After a broken kneecap suffered in January, Matthew Phillips' recovery is going to be a focus early on. His skating was good, but not great, and an injury like that could set his skating back. Otherwise, I like his skill set. He has good vision, good puck skills, and a good shot. Should his kneecap not be an issue, I think he could cement himself as a top-line AHL forward and give Calgary a reason to give him a look. Luke Philp took a little while to get going in his rookie campaign for the Heat last season, but really took off once he did. He showed good hockey IQ and uses deception well on rush chances. He finds soft space in the zone well. His puck skills are just okay, and his skating is average-ish, but I like his playmaking vision. He has a better shot than he lets on, and he needs to use it a little more often instead of always being a pass-first kind of Joe Thornton forward. I also wonder if he struggles carrying his own line, as he really benefited from great line mates last year in Phillips and Quine. Connor Zerry is certainly going to be getting the playing time to shine this season, and he deserves it. While he doesn't have Ricky Bobby speed, he skates well and uses lateral crossovers in the neutral zone to keep defenders on their toes. He has high-end puck skills and vision. He isn't a dominant puck possessor. That's mostly due to style, though. He seems more adept at one-touch passes and give-and-goes rather than prolonged possession trying to move defenders. I think he's more capable of leading the Heat on offense this season if he stays long enough on that side of the aisle and doesn't go to the Flames. Martin Paulpasel has good playmaking abilities, who is inconsistently an okay skater. He's physical, but cannot stop taking dumb penalties that handicaps any usefulness or value he brings to the Heat. If he could get that under control, he'd be a good bottom 6 forward. Justin Kirkland seemed to find his game in Stockton a bit last season. He's a big framed forward who I think makes a better winger than a center. He's very much a power forward, albeit he doesn't find his stick on rebounds all that much, but is rather good at winning battles and finding teammates for tap-ins. I don't think too much of his skating, and I think he's best used as a bottom six winger who gets some power play time here or there when the unit needs some fresh blood, maybe when things aren't going so well. Matthias Emilio Pettersson is an excellent skater with excellent playmaking vision and very good puck skills. He doesn't shoot often, which is unfortunate, as he actually has a pretty good shot. Defensively, well, did I mention his skating and playmaking ability? That lapse in defensive game is acceptable due to his ability to push the pace and create high-danger scoring chances, but it's something he's going to want to work on for sure if he wants to be an impact NHLer or, not occasionally get stapled to the bench by his coach. Adam Ruzicka had a pretty good rookie year with Stockton. He's a big center with good puck skills and a pretty good shot. He's creative and handles pressure well. I'd like to see his skating improve as, while he's not slow, being able to threaten to turn corners on defensemen would add a big dimension to his game. Eetu Tulola fits that same mold of being a bigger forward with good skills, whose skating needs some work. I think Tulola is a better shooter than Ruzicka and should probably get power play time as a triggerman on the half wall, but I think he settles in as a third-line guy for the season. Dmitry Zevgorodny really wows me with his ability to find teammates in traffic. He reminds me a lot of Andrew Mangiapane. I think rink rust plus playing versus grown-ass men will be a struggle for him, as he's not played a ton since a November 2019 collarbone injury sidelined him for most of his 1920 season. Lastly, Glenn Gaudin is waiver exempt, so I expect he makes an impact for the Heat this season. He's gotten a game or two in the show, but he's mostly been on the taxi squad, and it's not going to do him any good to sit in the press box and just watch Calgary games. I'd describe Gaudin's game as effective, but not sexy. He has good vision and processes the game quickly, paired with above-average puck skills. His defensive game is sound as well, but his big problem has always been his skating. It's progressed to be passable, but it's still his weakest hockey ability. Still, he's a bona fide first-liner in the AHL. Overall, this is an interesting group. There are definitely some guys that are on the taxi squad in Calgary, on the Flames side of Calgary, that are not really getting games, it doesn't appear like, that I think would be huge additions to the Heat. And if they come down, this forward group looks actually pretty deep. They have a lot of big physical guys, some guys with speed, a good mix of skills. But should the Flames be selfish, and no, that's a possibility, they could hold all those guys on the taxi squad, and then things get kind of dicey for the Heat. But what about the defense? What's our defense situation looking like here?
Well, the pronunciations are much less than the forward core there, so that's a plus. I felt like there were a lot there that we had to, phonetically spell out. So Sean, yeah, I'll let you. I'm glad I let you take that forward group. But anyway, let's talk blue liners. Let's talk defense. Alex Petrovich, he's a gigantic and physical defensive defenseman who lacks the puck skills or skating you'd expect from a guy with 263 NHL games. I did not realize he has played that many.
But yeah, the Florida Panthers decided that it was more important to protect him than Riley Smith and Jonathan Marsh. So great job, Dale Talon.
Yeah. And if you want to fight guys, like Tom Wilson, just watch that clip earlier today of him and Tom Wilson going at it. And yeah, Tom Wilson didn't take too kindly to that. And yeah, he made some work of Petrovich for sure. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about Petrovich again. He's good in his own zone, albeit he chases hits a little too often. As I just kind of alluded to. Once the puck leaves the D zone, he's not really much of a contributor to this team. I don't think Zachary Leslie shoots 8.1% in 2021, as while he has some offensive drive to him, he's more of a perimeter shooter. He's a smooth skater who has a good work ethic, and he's got good vision in transition too. His puck skills are good, but he lacks polish and isn't going to make any defenders look bad. Still, I think he has the potential to be a bigger impact defenseman for the Heat this season if given steady ice time. Conor Mackey is up with Calgary right now, but he isn't getting any games, so I imagine he finds his way to the AHL side of the Stockton Heat of Calgary at some point this season. Sitting in the press box sure isn't helping him develop, as you talked about earlier, Sean. Mackey has size, but doesn't have the athleticism you want from a guy his size. He's not out of shape, but at 6'2", 183 pounds, he isn't cutting it, and his skating lacks burst. He does have very good hockey sense and good puck skills. He has moments of high-end offensive production as well, but they're not consistent. He's someone who I think becomes a late bloomer with some more work in the gym and with his skating coach. Like you talked about earlier, and you've mentioned many times, staple the S&C coach to that guy for sure. Carl Johan Larrabee was someone who played big minutes in the SHL, but I don't know how well that transfers to the AHL. I like his value in transition game as he problem solves under pressure very well, and he's got a rock solid defensive zone game, but I don't think he has the playmaking vision or shot to be an impactful offensive defenseman, and he probably shouldn't be on the power play units for the Heat either. I'm surprised Michael Stone is here and not on the Flames taxi squad getting occasional games. I suppose he's here to mentor young guys like Leslie, as he has 472 games in the NHL. Stone's game is defensive-minded and physical, but he's not racking up pimps, which is always a good thing. He's a smart defenseman that isn't going to produce offense consistently, but he's got a high-velocity shot that isn't going to take it from anything but range. Still, he's a reliable partner for a more offensive-minded defenseman, as you should do when you're pairing up defensemen. Rob Hamilton has good quickness and edge work, but his puck skills are merely okay. He's okay under pressure too, and starting transition, but I feel like he resorts to glass and outplays more often than he should. He got power play time last season, but I think it's more due to the lack of dynamic defenseman or blue line for Stockton rather than his own talents. I mean, whenever you force a guy into a position that, just because you lack the individuals that can help out in that, that's always a tough spot to be in. But those are your skaters. Sean, you get to tackle the voodoo for the final team and the final segment of our 2021 AHL season preview. So talk voodoo to me, sir, for the Stockton Heat of Calgary.
Oh, I will. And this group is full of voodoo. Mm-hmm. Tyler Parsons has the raw athleticism you'd want in a top goalie prospect. But after that, it's hard to see anything to be excited about. Yes, raw athleticism counts for a lot, but his previous time in the AHL has not given me a lot of hope about the progress of his technical structure or ability to read the play at this level. Perhaps he's got a better hold of that in the prolonged offseason, but I'm not going to believe it until I see it for good stretches this season and likely next. I am going to be the last guy on the Tyler Parsons bandwagon, and I'm okay with that. Wow. This says Garrett Sparks. How did Garrett Sparks get here?
He's seen it all, man.
He really has seen it all. Mm-hmm. The bright lights and the intense scrutiny of the Toronto media and fans. He's seen the ECHL this season. Mm-hmm. He's seen the ECHL in previous seasons. He's been a AHL goalie of the year. He's won a Calder Cup. He's gotten a shot at the show. And then he's gone back to the ECHL. He's been an above average goalie at the AHL level almost his entire career. I don't think he's ever going to be an NHL goalie full-time, as his skill set lacks a lot of the high-end qualities you'd want in an NHL goalie. But I think he's a fine starter for the AHL, and I'm sure playing the Marlies a lot this year is going to be a fun adventure for him.
Oh, sure.
He's also someone who I think would be a strong mentor to, younger guys like Parsons or, for example, Artem Zagadulin. Zagadulin doesn't have the high-end athleticism, but he reads the play well and is maybe the shortest memory of any goalie in the Heat locker room. I don't know if he gets a fair shot this season with Sparks and Parsons, likely to be bigger priorities on the depth chart, but I think he could be a good AHL starter, if not in this season, then in future ones. Dustin Wolfe is undersized for a goalie prospect, but he has good athleticism and has excellent puck tracking. I question how he handles the shooting abilities of pro players, or even how he finds ice time in this clown car that is the Stockton goalie room, but he's certainly someone to keep an eye on. So that's all the goalies we got to talk about. Let's talk outcomes here. With Laval as the clear favorite, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit in other outcome-ish things. Like, this is going to be a knife fight between Stockton, Toronto, and Belleville, it looks like. They are very close in terms of how the model views them and how their lineups kind of stack with each other. If Garrett Sparks can get good play in front of him, and with what their D-core looks like, which I think is a lot more defensive than it is offensive, but that should play, in their favor. I think that they can surprise teams, especially if their schedule is very Manitoba heavy. Cece, what say you?
I mean, yeah, like we have mentioned, the previous two teams and the two previous from that. I mean, Canadian division's pretty small with 5 teams, definitely not Atlantic division small with 3 teams, but like you said, Garrett Sparks, he is the most voodoo-y of voodoo practitioners for the Calgary Flames, or the Stockton Heat of Calgary rather. And yeah, I mean, if he like even in the postseason, if you get a hot goaltender and some momentum, I think you can really make an impact. I think, gosh, we're seeing that in the Pacific Division right now with Henderson, San Diego. I'm forgetting the third team that's undefeated right now in the Pacific, but it's like they rendered Ontario 0-4-1, somebody that we were very bullish on here in our preseason, in our first episode of AHL season previews. And, you get some hot goaltending and, with Thompson and Ferguson up there with Henderson, it's like they're doing pretty well. So, I mean, it could be the same for Sparks, they could be number 2, or maybe even threaten Laval a little bit for that number 1 spot in the Canadian division. We'll see.
I think too, what's interesting is it seems like, I mean, even Manitoba with Burden, he's still a capable goaltender, but like Toronto has good goaltending, or at least on paper. Stockton has good goaltending on paper. Laval has Caden Primo, who, while I don't think either of us are as high on, he's still a capable starter and, capable of voodooing a good stretch, to propel Laval. Like, this is very much going to be, I think a lot of other divisions are going to have a lot more wild 6-5 kind of track meets like we've seen early on. But I think this Canadian division is going to settle to be a lot more 2-1, 3-2 games. And I think that favors teams that can score or have a little bit better scoring depth. And that is definitely Laval and probably Toronto.
Yeah, and the kind of later start that these guys are taking, I know the season started February 5th, and the AHL saw it fit to give Stockton a little bit more of a reprieve to get their staff up there and to get a little more situated rather, even though their players had already been in Calgary before they made that decision. I can see the little, if you're not watching the video, Sean just probably gave the biggest eye roll in the history of eye rolls on the show anyway. So, I mean, yeah, they gave Stockton a little bit more time. I think February 23rd is what I mentioned earlier. So, yeah, you get a little more time to prepare, about a week and a half's worth. So, a little more time to gel, a little more time out of the gate. I think Laval definitely showed that against Belleville, as we spoke during one of the other previews that we did this episode. So, but yeah, Sean, this is the final episode, but we wanted to have some closing thoughts on the Stockton Heat of Calgary.
The border in Calgary a little bit, because this is like, part of me is surprised, but then watching Calgary screw AHL markets, like, part of me is not surprised. They've been screwing AHL markets for a long time. I mean, Quad City, Adirondack, Stockton,
BC.
I think the thing that was the most amazing, and I looked this up, is if you take the last 11 years of Calgary's AHL affiliate, they have been outdrawn by the Huntsville Havoc of the SPHL in Alla-frickin-Bama.
Wow.
By Huntsville's last 4 years of attendance, not including this one, because, there are reasons you can't have people in the buildings, but from 1920, 18-19, 17-18, and 16-17, the Huntsville Havoc have outdrawn Stockton's AHL affiliate going back 11 years. So their last 4 is better. Each year is better than the best year of Stockton's AHL affiliate for the last 11 years. That's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, Sean. And, I did an article last year when I was still with the sinbin.net, in regards to, the rumors flying that with the World Arena in Colorado Springs, Colorado opening up, that Calgary might pull out of Stockton because they were, not satisfied. Yeah, I know. I know you're a little befuddled by that as to why they would do that, but there was rumors going around that Calgary wasn't satisfied with the facilities there in Stockton. And I mean, right there at the World Arena, you've got 2 rinks that are regulation size, 1 rink that's Olympic size because Colorado Springs, USA Hockey, et cetera, et cetera. And the World Arena would have to be retrofitted for a regulation size rink because they are an Olympic size rink there at the World Arena in Colorado Springs. I digress. Obviously, I'm based in Colorado, so I'm going to know a little bit more about that. And I grew up in Colorado Springs too. But to add to that, in the attendance and everything, you look at the affiliation, and I did this a year ago, and it kind of was, an eye-opening thing. They have not established any continuity. Not only have they bounced around markets, but the fact is they haven't stayed there for long either. So I started at 2005 because 2005 to 2020, that's a good solid cutoff, round number. So 05 to 07, the Omaha Axar Ben Omaha Axar Ben Knights. And so you're in Omaha, Nebraska, trying to establish a brand, and you're only there for 2 seasons. And then they uproot, move the team to Quad City. So the Quad Cities area, mostly known for the Quad City Mallards of the ECHL and the Quad City Storm, now the SPHL in recent years. But yeah, they put an AHL team there in Quad City. Yanked them out after 2 seasons. They stayed in Abbotsford, BC, British Columbia for 5 years, from 09 to 14. Why in the hell would you put your AHL team in Abbotsford, BC, when you are based out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada? That's Canucks country. People don't give a crap. They don't give a crap about your AHL team. No wonder the SPHL, the Huntsville Havoc of the SPHL outdrome. It's because nobody went to games. They're like, Calgary, screw Calgary. They didn't want to see Calgary's prospect there in Abbotsford. Again, Canucks country. What are you thinking, Calgary? So you yank the team out of Abbotsford and you move them to Stockton, California to launch the Pacific Division. Oh, wait, Adirondack. Sorry, you just pointed behind me because Adirondack, they were only there for a year. The Adirondack Flames. And guess what? They didn't support them because that is actually Red Wings country. They had the Adirondack Wings, Red Wings rather, for a number of years. And now Adirondack has an ECHL team because of the push west. So 1 season in Glens Falls, New York, they plucked the team up, put them there in Stockton, California to make the push that the AHL wanted to do to create a Pacific Division in their league. And they succeeded. However, after 5 seasons, this will be season number 6. It doesn't look good for Stockton. And I know you're giving me the eye rolls and the head shakes about Colorado Springs, Colorado, but honestly, Sean, what's that?
Let's talk about why I don't think that makes sense.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick before we end the show.
Okay, you're abandoning Stockton because abandoning AHL cities is just what you do. You're Calgary. That's your brand. So besides the fact that I think that's dumb, let's talk about why putting it in Colorado Springs is dumb. Like every other NHL team that owns its AHL affiliate is like, let's get them as close as possible. And you're still putting them no closer. Like, you can't tell me Colorado Springs is meaningfully closer to Calgary than Stockton is, because it's just not. Like, I'm not that bad at geography. But you're also now sharing what is not a very large market with another already established AHL team. That's the established AHL team of the NHL team. You're trying to basically re-Abbotsford this situation for what? What are you possibly gaining? Oh, the facilities are nicer? Build facilities. Vegas bought San Antonio and was just like, yep, this is ours now. We're going to completely start from scratch. And Vegas doesn't have near the money that the Calgary ownership does. They just don't. Calgary is owned by Calgary Sports and Entertainment. That is a private company owned by 5 dudes who are the 1%. Like, don't tell me that company that owns the Flames, the Saddle Dome, the Calgary Hitmen, and the Rough Riders and the Heat doesn't have the money to just be like, yeah, we're going to make an AHL arena in a city that is beneficial to us happen. But if funding this team properly was a thing, they probably wouldn't be getting outdrawn by an SPHL team that has half their funds, half their staff. But yeah, Colorado Springs. Let's share a market with another much more well-established team. That could not possibly go wrong.
Yeah. Sean and I definitely discussed this because, like I mentioned, well, I think it's great that they've got good facilities because obviously that's a concern for Calgary because of the rumors coming out of Stockton, actually confirmed rumors. Yes, Sean, you brought up a very good point that Calgary would be putting an AHL franchise in the heart of Avalanche country. And I can attest, living in Colorado Springs during the time that they had their one and only minor league team, the Colorado Gold Kings of the WCHL, kind of another AA league that the Idaho Steelheads were a part of, the San Diego Gulls were a part of at one time. So the West Coast Hockey League, they had the Anchorage Gold Kings, and they moved down to Colorado Springs to become the Colorado Gold Kings. That works. There's gold rushers in both places. Why not? 1998 to 2002. That's as long as the Gold Kings lasted because my main concern with that, Colorado Springs is a college hockey market. You've got Colorado College who, they've been on lean years for a while. Same with the Air Force Falcons. They're both not doing very well at all this year. Same with the Denver Pioneers if you want to go a little further north. But Colorado Springs is a college hockey town. And that's the thing. If you try to put an AHL franchise there, yeah, you've got great facilities. You've got Olympic hockey. That's that. Obviously, you've got the tradition and everything there. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. But yes, Sean, your concerns are totally valid. As much as it's like, okay, hey, there's the emotional tie for me in Colorado Springs. It's like, hey, natural rival for the Colorado Eagles just up the road on I-25, just an hour. You're establishing a rivalry, but honestly, you need to put butts in seats. You need to generate profits and you need to generate income because, like you said, you're putting them right in Avalanche territory. And that is going to be the problem that you're going to keep facing when you put your AHL franchise in places that already have established NHL territorial rights, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and like, it's not even that you have established territorial rights, but like, it doesn't even seem like you guys are trying. Like, I'm not blaming the Stockton front office and their ticket reps or whoever, but like, can you honestly tell me that you're drawing less than 4,000 fans a night and you're being given the proper resources to succeed? Because I just don't believe that. And again, Calgary has a long history of making dumb decisions from even a hockey ops perspective. We've been trying to trade Johnny Gaudreau for like 2 seasons. Top 20 wingers just growing trees. Or, hey, you know what? Dougie Hamilton likes museums, so we need to make sure he gets, traded away for pennies on the dollar.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh. And okay. So back to real quick to kind of wrap this up. I'm curious. You would maybe build a new facility in Calgary or maybe a suburb of Calgary, kind of like what Vegas has done. And I mean, Calgary's it would be the westernmost team in the AHL up in Canada. Anyway, Canada's westernmost team. So you'd have to, fly out to Manitoba and you could dip down in the Pacific Division a little bit. I mean, obviously that's a theoretical situation for non-COVID times once we reach that again here. But you would say just, man up and put the team in Calgary full time?
I would say that they need to make a decision and they need to stick by that decision. They need to, say like, all right, we're going to do this. And then we're going to just accept whatever happens for the next decade or something. Either put it in Calgary and accept the travel costs, or what I prefer you do, you leave it in Stockton and you build the facility there. And then you try and actually build that fan base. Like, I don't think the inhabitants of Stockton are just like, oh, no, we don't really like Calgary. Like, Bakersfield's not far away, but Edmonton is, and that fan base is doing fine. Mm-hmm. Stockton has, is a major metropolitan area in California, so it's not like you're, in the middle of nowhere. Like, this is a you problem. Build the facilities. You have the money. You absolutely have the money, or move them to Calgary and stop screwing around with these teams, like, and these markets and these fans. Like, put it in Calgary and accept the travel costs, or build the facilities where it is in Stockton and do it the right way. And then whatever you decide of those two, that's it. Stop like, that first year didn't go great, so bye. Like, you need to actually commit. This isn't, a Tinder date. You actually need to hold on to this.
Yeah. And, that's the only other AHL arena that I've actually been to is down in Stockton, California. And so Stockton was an ECHL market for a number of years. That's where the Adirondack Thunder moved to. They switched franchises. So the Stockton Thunder became the Adirondack Thunder. So like they have 15, 16 years between the ECHL and the AHL. So they have that established minor league market, but oftentimes when you make the jump from the ECHL to the AHL or vice versa, so a lot of stuff can get lost in translation, especially when people are used to the rough and tumble way of the Wild West of the ECHL. And then you put NHL prospects there and it's like, well, the guys aren't fighting anymore. What's going on? It's kind of what's happening and what's going on. But, the facility, the main arena, it's an ECHL arena, if I would say so. It's an ECHL arena. It's kind of cavernous. It's a weird setup. It's kind of strange. And I mean, they've got good, amenities and everything that surround the arena. They have a NBA G League team there, in the Stockton Kings. That's a feeder club for the Sacramento Kings there, the NBA. Yeah. So yeah, it's a serviceable facility, but it's nothing to sweep you off your feet. And so, yeah, Calgary, figure it out, eh? Come on, figure it out.
Yeah, because like this is not working for anybody. It's not working for you. Like it's not working for the markets. It's not working for the fans of these teams. Judging on your draft, success rate, it's really not working that great for the prospects either. So like, figure it out, Calgary. Figure it out.
I mean, hell, you could put could you put a team in Regina for crying out loud? I mean, that's next door in Saskatchewan, isn't it?
Maybe. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts here, CC, before we head out?
Yeah, Canadian Division. That'll be interesting. Just taking a month at a time, and yeah, just happy to be done, happy to be over with it, and happy to start reviewing teams like that are actually playing instead of just conjecture and everything. That's going to be, got to cover my first Eagles game this weekend. I mean, granted it was from afar because it was down in Irvine, California with the San Diego Gulls. And so I'm excited, man. Hockey's back, hockey's here, and it's unprecedented as hell, but hey, we've got it, man. And we're ready to go beyond the season previews. We are done, my friend. We are done.
The next time we get to do this, we've been making podcasts about the AHL now for what, like months? This is This is the first time that we're going to be able to talk about live happening AHL hockey next time. I'm so excited. And
yeah,
if you're listening to us for an hour and 6 minutes so far, bless you, because you're going to get a really good previews and recaps coming up here. And if you've liked the quality we've given you, we're going to keep putting that out to you. So that's it for this show, though. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from, or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found in our Linktree account, which is scrolling down in the bottom of the video here. But if you're in the audio form, our Linktree is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Take it away, CC.
Yeah. Yep. I'm CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter. We are also part of, well, let me start over there. So we are part of the Full Press Radio Network, and you can find our program, other hockey podcasts, and other sports and sports entertainment, because we cover the WWE as well. You can find all of that at Full Press Coverage. That's fullpresscoverage.com. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now I can talk about my Twitter handle. There we go. Full Press Hockey on Twitter, covering the AHL at FPC_AHL. You can also follow my personal Twitter account. I talk music, I talk hockey, mainly hockey, of course. But yeah, a lot of fun takes, a lot of interesting, whatever interests me. I hope it interests you too. Like I said, mainly hockey on my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. And you can check out my writing at Full Press Coverage. It's actually the AHL side of Full Press Hockey. It's its own designated website at www.fullpresshockey.com. Shawnee.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. That's my personal account, along with my personal Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. Kind of like CC's account. It's mostly hockey tweets, but there's also some pop culture things and random this and that mixed in there. I'm sure as the Snyder cut of Justice League comes out, you'll see me make fun of how silly it is. You can find my stats work, including the point shares model that we talk about and we'll probably be talking about a lot in upcoming weeks. All of that data is on Tableau at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. There are a lot of cool graphs, so you can learn some interesting things there. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction, DYSFUNCTION, so he can make music for you too.
There you go. And like I said ad nauseum here in the past few minutes, this is it for our 2021 AHL season previews. So dump and chase responsibly, as my good friend Sean O'Brien always says. And, don't get mad if our projections are weird, because guess what? It's only a model. And for Shawnee, I'm CC Hockley. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you guys listening. You know where to find us. So until then, keep your stick on the ice.